Today on Investigate TV, children dying in products used by millions of parents, and a gag rule tying the hands of the arm of the government in charge of recalls.
I mean, you just don't imagine ever having to tell your child that their child is dead.
It is a half-throated warning to the public because we had to negotiate every word of it with the company.
Plus, credit report mistakes derailing service members' security clearances, hindering promotions. They tell us their complaints are going ignored.
I can't emphasize enough how important it is for that information to be accurate because big decisions are made based on that information.
And scammers impersonating government employees, convincing victims to drain their bank accounts.
And then he told me they'll issue me a new social security number and all the funds would be returned to me after the investigation.
Investigate TV starts right now. Hello and welcome to Investigate TV. I'm Lee Zurik. The world's leading manufacturer of baby products is warning parents about one of its popular products, but only after the deaths of more than a dozen children. We have the details in our investigation, Defective.
Savannah was born perfectly healthy. She was the joy of our life. We loved her a lot.
3 years ago, Kathy Greninger lost her granddaughter, little Savannah, without warning.
It was the worst thing I've ever had to say. I mean, you just don't imagine ever having to tell your child that their child is dead.
Grab it, baby.
This is the last memory of 4-month-old Savannah alive in her Fisher-Price infant-to-toddler rocker. Hours later, Kathy's son-in-law called her over. Savannah was gone.
You don't just have a healthy baby that just passes away when they're sleeping unless something contributes to it.
Kathy, who's a nurse, says the coroner blamed the death on the rocker and the position it left Savannah in. As she slept, her face turned to the side.
The official cause of death was listed as positional asphyxia related to the rocking chair.
Kathy reported Savannah's death to Fisher-Price. Here's the email proving they spoke. But that communication and a lack of transparency by the company has a member of Congress livid.
They absolutely misled me and the committee and Congress.
In June of 2021, the CEO of Mattel, Fisher-Price's parent company, appeared before Congress to answer questions about deaths caused by another product, the Rock and Play. That product, now recalled, is tied to nearly 100 deaths. Congresswoman Jackie Speer wanted to know if any other Fisher-Price products caused deaths.
My question to you is, do you have any other products that are manufactured today that are in the marketplace that have been linked to deaths of children?
Well, we recalled the gliders that were linked.
I understand that. I'm talking about any other products that we, the American public, do not know about that have caused or have been associated with the deaths of children.
We share all information with the CPSC. I don't have any further data than that.
The CEO wouldn't provide a direct answer, even though the company knew about Savannah. Did Fisher-Price mislead you in that hearing?
Well, if they were aware of another death with another product, they absolutely misled me and the committee and Congress.
And just to be clear, you feel like the Fisher-Price CEO dodged your questions?
If he was ignorant of the facts, he should have corrected the record subsequent to that hearing, and it appears that he did not. So I think it's important for him to come back. And I think we need a fuller exploration of these products and the injuries and deaths associated with them.
But there's another twist from that hearing, an exchange between Speer and the CEO that became more significant this summer. Listen to how the questioning continued when the Congresswoman asked if Fisher-Price would allow the government to release information about its products associated with deaths, despite a law known as Section 6B that would allow the company to shield that information.
Would you be willing to allow them to release that information to the general public and not be subject to this Section 6?
I think it's important to note that...
Yes or no, please?
Yes, but it's important to note that some of the information that is in the market is inaccurate and not always correct. And of course, as I said, I'm saying here that we will commit to work collaboratively with the regulators.
But one federal official says Fisher-Price did slow the release of critical information. Since 2011, records show the Consumer Product Safety Commission, or CPSC, passed along at least 20 consumer complaints of deaths, injuries, and incidents to Fisher-Price. But it wasn't until March of this year that the CPSC got a briefing on a pattern.
They sent us a package of hundreds and hundreds of pages of information about the deaths associated with that product.
And this CPSC commissioner says they were blocked for more than 2 months after that, not allowed to warn the public.
I read medical reports, coroner's reports, heartbreaking, gut-wrenching information, and I didn't sleep that night. Until I was done reading all this, I didn't sleep for a couple days, because that much information weighing on you and not being able to tell the public, when that should be our most central role, trumpeting that information from the rooftops, it's heartbreaking and aggravating.
In June, the CPSC and Fisher-Price finally issued a warning about the rocker. Attached to that warning, the commissioner's scathing statement because of what he calls a gag rule, that 6B law that allows the companies to control when and how the public finds out about potentially dangerous products.
Whatever you see is a watered-down version of what we wanted to say. It is a half-throated warning to the public because we had to negotiate every word of it with the company.
So the warning on the infant to toddler rocker is not as strong as you would have liked it?
It doesn't match our first draft, for sure, and I would have certainly liked to say more. I mean, there's things that I know about that product and what happened with it that I'm not allowed to say because of the gag rule.
The warning told parents not to let their children sleep in the rockers and ultimately revealed it wasn't just Savannah who died. Between 2009 and 21, 13 babies.
But I do want to be clear about one point. Fisher-Price would have been aware of each of those deaths in much closer to real time, and they certainly should have been aware of the pattern that was emerging over time. The gag rule stops the commission from talking. It does not stop a company from talking, and I would love to see responsible companies tell the public themselves when their products are associated with deaths rather than waiting, sitting back and waiting.
And what's more, we don't know the extent of the danger because the law has prevented the commission from telling us everything it knows.
What I'm saying is we know more, and if I was a parent, there's information I'd want to hear that I'm not allowed to say.
You can't tell us right now in this interview.
I can't.
If you did?
I couldn't tell my wife at home.
Congresswoman Spears says she wants to hold another hearing and bring the CEO back in front of Congress.
Again, I think that the fact that they weren't transparent is problematic, and they need to be called in to testify on what they know and what they did or did not tell us.
Kathy Greninger wants answers too. Despite reporting her granddaughter's death to the CPSC and Fisher-Price, she says for years neither followed up after a brief initial contacts.
If you're reporting a product that is unsafe, how is it that the manufacturers are policing themselves? Of course, they're making money off of these products. They're not going to let the consumer know until they have to.
This summer, after that product warning, she received the only contact she says she's had since 2019, a form email.
I got an email from Fisher-Price telling me that they believe that I may have owned one of their rockers and that they were sending me a notice to let me know that it was a warning to let a child sleep in that rocker.
A warning that came far too late.
Until it's recalled, it's going to continue to happen because people are letting their kids sleep in these rockers. You have a tired mom who's young, inexperienced, or that has a lot going on, they're going to let their baby sleep in it at least for a little bit of time, and all it takes is a few minutes for them to pass away.
Fisher-Price did not respond to our request for an interview or comment. Want to hear more stories like this? Check out the Investigate TV YouTube page or go to our website, InvestigateTV.com. Coming up, credit report mistakes hurting military members, derailing careers. Our consumer reporter Caresse Jackman investigated 250,000 consumer complaints. What she uncovered after the break. Welcome back to Investigate TV. Members of the armed forces risk their lives to protect us, but they say U.S. financial and medical systems are failing them. Consumer reporter Caresse Jackman looked into 250,000 consumer complaints filed by service members, vets, and their families. She tells us how credit report mistakes are wrecking lives and careers.
Tiffany Ellett lives a life dedicated to service. It started with tours in Iraq and Afghanistan.
I spent 4 years in the Army. I was an intelligence analyst.
Now she serves in a different way, helping fellow veterans navigate a complicated journey she knows from experience, transitioning from the Army to civilian life.
With the service members and veterans, we always have a mission. Once we become a veteran, we still have that feeling of a mission to take care of our families. For some of us, that's the only mission we have.
Ellett is the Deputy Director for Health Policy at the American Legion, a veteran service organization.
What we do is we focus on advocating for the best policies that are going to help our veterans financially, educationally, in their careers, in their health.
She says one of the biggest hurdles for her clients, understanding medical bills.
How challenging can that be for a service member or a veteran?
We aren't trained when we come out. There's no, reverse basic training that helps you with financial literacy or medical literacy.
It turns out service members and veterans aren't just lost trying to learn financial and medical systems. A new Consumer Financial Protection Bureau report reveals thousands of complaints claiming those systems are failing them altogether. The CFPB's Office of Veteran Affairs' latest report reveals since 2011, service members, military family, and veterans registered over 250,000 consumer complaints. In 2021 alone, more than half of those complaints were for inaccurate information on their credit reports. Jim Rice is the CFPB's Assistant Director for the Office of Service Member Affairs. He says those mistakes can lead to significant problems for service members and veterans.
It really can be serious for that service member.
Members of the military, their families, and veterans are covered by an insurance program called TRICARE. The program is designed to utilize a network of VA facilities and civilian healthcare options. According to the CFPB report, one way service members often accrue medical debt is during a breakdown in the medical billing process between the private provider and TRICARE. In the report, one complaint called the activity illegal and unethical. According to the service member, they had a hospital bill that TRICARE had paid in full. However, a debt collector was still trying to collect on the same bill. The charge ended up on their credit report, and despite trying multiple times to get it removed, the major credit companies refused.
I can't emphasize enough how important it is for that information to be accurate because big decisions are made based on that information.
John McNamara knows how debt collectors operate. He worked in the industry for more than 20 years.
What should be done to make sure that debt collectors are ensuring that they're trying to reduce the inaccuracies on these reports?
For one thing, be responsive to the consumers. Double check the clients. Make sure that the information they're getting from the clients is absolutely accurate.
We wanted to speak with both the VA and the Defense Health Agency, which operates TRICARE, about billing problems affecting service members' credit. In a statement, the VA wrote it recently changed its process on how it reports to the credit reporting agencies, saying it yielded a 99% reduction in unfavorable debt reports. The DHA replied that its managed care contractors are required to have a process for documenting all inquiries and referrals to a debt collection assistance officer. The statement went on to say it received a monthly report on debt collection cases, and its healthcare contractors neither sends accounts to debt collection nor tracks or monitors the status of cases transferred to a debt collection agency by a provider. Neither agency agreed to an on-camera interview. There's a reason why those unfavorable credit reports are especially damaging for service members. According to the CFPB, inaccurate debt information not only hurts their chances of buying a house or a car, it can negatively affect their security clearance. That's because in 2017, the Department of Defense switched from a 5 or 10-year check for security clearances to continuous monitoring. If there's a flag on someone's credit process, it could indicate they're a risk and influence their clearance.
So if it's not addressed and it's wrong, it could hang out there for 7 years, depriving you of credit, depriving you of the place that you want to live, maybe depriving you of the job of your dreams.
We reach out to the big 3 credit companies to ask if they were instituting changes as a result of the report. Only one responded and referred us to the Consumer Data Industry Association, or CDIA, a representative for the nationwide credit bureaus. They declined our request for an on-camera interview, saying they're committed to helping military service members and all consumers resolve any potential errors on their credit reports. The CDIA recommended people file a dispute online if they feel their information is inaccurate or incomplete. Rice, a veteran himself, hopes their report leads to changes in the way service members and his fellow veterans are treated when it comes to fixing and eliminating problems on their credit reports.
I think it's important that people who are making the commitment that they do to the country get at least the things that they are owed.
And Lee, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion released a joint statement in March announcing paid medical collection debt will no longer be included on consumer credit reports. Also in 2023, the 3 major credit bureaus will stop reporting medical collection debt below $500.
Thanks, Caresse. To keep up with our latest investigations, follow us on social media. We're at InvestigateTV on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Up next, a woman swindled out of thousands of dollars by a fake Social Security worker.
He told me, we need to secure my finances. We need to secure my funds so the government won't seize them.
Her story after the break. Welcome back to Investigate TV. A crime ring faking desperate situations to prey on victims' fears, all so they can steal your money. Mike Mason from our station in Anchorage, Alaska, explains.
I felt like it was almost the last straw.
This Anchorage woman wants to remain anonymous, so we'll call her Vicky. Last year, Vicky's world was turned upside down when she received an urgent call from a man named David, claiming to be a Social Security worker. He said Vicky was in deep trouble.
Yeah, basically someone rented a car in my name, and that car was found at the crime scene, just abandoned, and apparently there were some, drugs.
David told Vicky somebody in Texas may have stolen her identity and could be framing her for a crime. Since Vicky had ties to Texas, she believed him. David said if she wanted to prove her innocence, she'd have to cooperate with his investigation and do exactly what he said.
He told me, we need to secure my finances. We need to secure my funds so the government won't seize them. Because what they're going to do now is that they're going to take all of my funds from all of my accounts to make sure I'm not going to run away or whatever, right?
David told Vicky to go to a grocery store in Eagle River and drain her bank account by purchasing all the $500 Nike gift cards she could afford.
And then he told me they'll issue me a new Social Security number and all of the funds would be returned to me after the investigation.
Vicky was instructed to photograph the cards and PIN numbers on the back and text those to a secure government phone number.
And I tell him, I think I was able to send it. Did you get it? He's like, let me check with my colleague. And then 10 seconds later, I don't know, he's like, oh yeah, I got it, perfect. And he's so happy.
David then told her to do the same with her credit cards. But after 6 hours of being on the phone, Vicky was exhausted. And that's when she drew the line.
He keeps telling me how I'm not cooperative and I'm so in trouble and this is gonna get played in court tomorrow. And I'm like, what court?
Vicky eventually hung up and realized she had been scammed.
I was just wiped completely. I couldn't believe what just happened.
Unfortunately, we see it all too often where these scammers use that tactic of impersonating an authority figure.
Roseanne Freitas is with the Better Business Bureau and says this type of scam can happen to just about anyone.
These are sophisticated international crime rings that are doing most of this. This is what they're doing day in, day out. They are the master of persuasion.
Remember, government employees will not threaten you. They'll never ask for payments via gift cards, wire transfers, or cryptocurrency. If you ever get suspicious, hang up the phone, look up the office number, and call that instead. Do not call them at the number they provide. And another scam to warn you about, this one targeting sellers on Facebook and Craigslist. Con artists reach out saying they want to buy something. You get a code on your phone and they ask you to read it off to confirm you're legit. But that code is actually a Google Voice verification. The con artist is trying to link a secondary phone line to your number without your knowledge. If they're successful, they can use the Google line from their phone. But since it's in your name, they can conduct phone schemes, ripping people off, and it will all point back to you. Coming up, inflation that worries Wall Street and your household spending spiking. Hear what you can do after the break. Welcome back to Investigate TV. Inflation sends prices soaring. Recession concerns put people on edge. What can you do to stay afloat? Rachel DePompa has some tips in this Watching Your Wallet.
Got an extra $11,500 lying around? Because that's what you'll need to keep up with prices this year. And that's a lot more than you probably budgeted for because of high prices at the grocery store, the pump, and even your home.
We found that in order to purchase the same groceries that you bought in 2020, you're going to be spending about $100 more each month on average. For utility bills, it's about $70 more each month. So this really adds up. And if you're on a tight budget to begin with, things can get really dicey.
Elizabeth Renter is a data analyst with NerdWallet. The company looked at how much spending could rise this year compared to last. She says something as simple as switching from name brand to generic at the grocery store could help keep your spending in check. She says you also need to prepare for high interest rates, meaning if you were going to buy a car, maybe you put that purchase off for another year.
If you can funnel more money into an emergency fund or your savings, do, because things might not get better for a little while and it'll feel good to have that extra cushion.
If you can't put more money in emergency savings and these prices have you on edge, don't be afraid to ask for help. You can go to 211.org or you can dial 211 on your smartphone to find community services in your area. With this, Watching Your Wallet, I'm Rachel DePompa.
Thanks, Rachel. And that's it for us. Thanks for joining us here on Investigate TV. We'll see you next week.